Do you know how to draw the male torso? Do you know how the pecs works, how the abdominal works? Do you know the difference between the female torso and the male torso? Do you know how to draw girly hips? Do you know how to draw breasts? Well, I'm going to try to figure out all in this video, so stay tuned. Hi, my name is Javi and I can draw. Welcome to a new video. Before we begin, if you all often watch this channel, I have a question for you. Are you interested in getting like a written version of all of these I do in these videos and during the week? Would you be interested in paying like maybe just like $1 or so or something like that for a written version? Because I'm thinking about maybe starting a Patreon, but I don't know. So just let me know on the comments below. Now let's start with the lesson. As I usually start, I went through the web and looked for the best tutorials that I can find. I found some really good ones. These are the ones. None of that matters. What matters is that this week we're going to see the human torso. What is the torso? Well, this thing, the chest, the back, the ribs, the hip, all of that we're going to see this week. And as per usual, what I've done is I went to the web and I found the best tutorials that I can find. And yes, you're probably going to see a lot of names that I've been repeating lately, and that's because, well, they are the best names. These are the best tutorials that I'm finding. So let's just go ahead and get done with it. Now, the first tutorial that I found that I think that is going to be easy to like this first approach on how to draw the human torso is by Broco. He has this technique that is called the bean. I mentioned it on some other video, but this one is about like actually, well, drawing the torso as if it were shaped as a bean. And it goes through, to great length to explain why he's doing this and what it makes sense to interpret the torso as a bean, or as maybe two beans, or like two balls in a bag, or something like that. That is actually really, really useful as a first volumetric approach. Now that you've seen that, maybe we should start talking about muscle groups. Now, there is a tutorial by Nemonova. I always mention it here. There's great tutorials by Nemonova, and this one is about the main muscle groups of the torso. Namely, the pectorals, the abdominals, like the obliques, and all of that. They all get mentioned and explained there in that particular tutorial. It's pretty good. Check it out. Now, that tutorial also explains about the difference between the male hips and the female hips. For that, there is just two things that I'm going to mention right now. One is by Aranda. There are some like tips on how to draw female hips. And then there is one about posing by Grease and Norm that they always post great tips. Like, I think that is like every Tuesday or so. You should look for them on, well, they're everywhere. They're on Tumblr, they are on Instagram. Awesome animators. And those two give tips on how to draw hips. And last but not least, besides the difference on the size of the hips, there is also a big difference between the male torso and the female torso, and that is the breasts. So there's this good, well, it's not actually a tutorial, but it's like a what not to do when drawing breasts. This is by Javi, and this is like very famous. If you Google how to draw breasts, you're going to find this one, on the top of the results. But, well, you will find that one because it is actually really good. So those are the ones that I'm going to suggest. You should also know, as usual, that there's going to be, all of them are going to be linked below. And then on the link below, there's also going to be, not only you're going to find these tutorials I'm mentioning, but you're also going to find a Pinterest group where there are going to be some more tutorials and reference for you to use if you're interested. You should go there. I'm pouring my heart. I'm doing a great effort to find this for you and get it to you. So please use it and enjoy it and learn. So if you look at them, they're pretty self-explanatory, right? Like, I mean, there's not many complicated things moving But what mattered the most is that, you know, that thing with the bean and then starting to build on top of that. So I put myself to the challenge to try to do it, to see if I could get it right, and this is what happened. Okay, so here I am. If you've seen the last video where I recommended the best tutorials, you will see that I recommended one that was by Broco that started explaining how you can synthesize the shape of the torso by doing like this bean-like shape. Now I did these 3 beans that they're not so much random as I was going to do them. I thought about them just a bit, and now I'm going to try to elaborate them until we have a torso developed. So the first thing that I would do, and this is just something I do, I don't know if like Broco recommends it or not, but I would divide this in 2 boxes, one for the ribcage and one for the hip. Now I would do a box that is just like this. This is for the ribcage. The ribcage would be something like kinda like this. And then I would do one for the hip. Now chances of this being proportional are very slim because I wasn't actually thinking about that when I drew the beans. I actually think that that is something that might be a bit wrong about this technique, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I have like this here. Now we're going to do one like, oh, where would this one be? Trying to do something like this maybe? Let's see. Okay, so a box. And then a box here. Now this would be like bent like this. Is this a position that a person can have? Okay, I might have to think about this bean thing a little bit more. Or maybe when you're doing it in the context of the whole human body, it works a lot more. Now, maybe just by itself, it's hard to get a grasp if this like twisting and turning make any sense. Now I'm going to do this last one, like her. This is going to be the side of the bean. So the ribcage would be something like this. And this part is going to be something like this. It's going to be twisted just a bit. Let's see. I'm going to twist it just a bit more so we can use the abs just a bit. Okay, so 2 boxes, kind of boxes. I drew some guideline for the ribcage, but I don't know how useful that is going to be, or maybe it is a lot because the ribcage has that shape and that is, well, pretty important. Now let's focus on the muscle groups that we saw on the tutorials as well. So the first one would be the pectorals. Now the thing about the pecs is that they are actually linked to the arms, so I'm going to draw just some small balls here next to the cubes to symbolize where the shoulders would be, because if the arm comes like something like this, then the pec gets attached to it like this. It goes to the center of the ribcage, and then this one gets attached like this as well. Now they go this way. You may not notice that, like they come from below this part up to here, and you may not notice that because the shoulder muscle kind of covers that. So if I'm going to do the shoulder, I may need to do the shoulder here. It goes like something like this as the most basic shape, and that's why you see this as just one big mass and you don't see the pec coming down this way. Now they have a small volume here if you have really well developed pectorals, not like me, and well, not like me. So if we're going to do the same thing here, just following the box, let's following this here. I'm going to simplify it just a bit more. It's all coming down here. Some big depression here. And here from the side, well, this is a bit more challenging, I guess. this. Is it like with the shoulder muscles coming to cover this part? It is. Sometimes you can even see like on this part where it separates, what the pectoral muscle separates from the clavicle. Depending on the body type that you have, you can actually see that. So, well, if you pay attention to people that are super skinny, you can actually see that. Now, I'm going to choose some other color, like I don't know, like this kind of orangey, and I'm going to start focusing on the second most important muscle group that you're going to draw here, that are the abs. Like the pecs and the abs are the two muscle groups here that have like the best marketing team. And so, well, basically you know that they come down this way. Just as simple as that. So we're going to draw the most simple version of this. In this particular case, since when you are bending over, you start using them. Here I can do that like this stretch shape here. So I will have to start like, well, thinking about how the abdominal muscles are being used. But, well, you can kind of reduce it to this anyway. Maybe I could have gone simpler. Let me see. Maybe there's just no need to. Well, yeah, if you're going to do it this way, you can just do this simple shape and then we can focus on the bulges of the abdominal muscles. And in this particular case, it comes here. Now, the third muscle group, now I'm going to be honest with you, in the tutorials that I've shown you, there is a mention of a muscle group that goes this way, goes up this way, but I don't actually believe that that is the most important muscle group that we should be focusing on after the pectorals and the abs. What I think that we should be focusing on are actually, well, see, when I'm usually drawing the human figure, I tend to draw this type of like, you know, like slip, like this tidy whiteys here. Try to get this underwear kind of shaped for this part. This helps me know when the leg begins, because the leg will begin like somewhere around here, and it also helps me know where the hip bones are going to be. So they're going to be somewhere around here. Now, the muscle group that I want to talk about is actually the obliques. And that muscle group, it comes from below. It is also attached to the same place as the abs. It is an abdominal part of the abdominal muscles as well. And it goes like this way. Now when you're getting fat, all of that muscle gets covered by fat. And when you are slim, you can actually see that, like apparently ladies love it. Or something. I don't know, I never had them. So you will have, excuse me. What I was saying is that you have these two muscles on each side. They go all the way to the back. Actually, the muscles are these kind of bulges here, and all of this part that I'm drawing right now is just tendon. And those are the muscles that help you spin. If you need to spin, you're going to be using those muscles. Now, let's go back to the abs a bit. Let's start working them just a bit. As you probably already know, it's actually these muscles are groups are divided in 8, like 1, 2, 3, and the fourth is just really down there. Same here, and well, same here. Now, this group is like, I don't know how to explain it. No, actually, I know exactly how to explain it. Look at my finger. What they do, each bulge is like each of the phalanxes on your finger. So as they compress, they get a little bit bulkier, just like this, because they're actually, well, compressing to pull you. If it were just one muscle, there wouldn't be much range of motion, but since you have several of those abs, you have a lot more range of motion and new ones when you're moving. So let's go with like, in this particular case, they should be stretched. So you can do them bulky if you're going to be doing like this super muscular type of superhero thing. But if you're not, it's better if you just keep them just a bit stretched and then go bulky in this type of postures where, for example, here the abs should be being used because the ribcage is going forward, and that means that you're using your abs to bring it forward. And the more you lean forward, the more of the muscles that you're using. Like if you really want to work out these muscles, the lower abdominals, you have to lift your legs a lot and lift your hip. And if you want to bring your ribcage down, like when you're doing sit-ups, you bring it up, you bring your ribcage up, and you're using mainly this too. So here we have, for example, now the shape that you bring into is just a bit forward to the ribcage. Now, here is where I get the tricky part, because this is the part that I don't know that much, and by that much, I mean I barely know it. And it's about this part. Like, I know that this is dorsal muscle. We've seen the dorsal muscle in the shoulder videos, because it is actually one of the muscles that brings your arm down. So I used that lesson to talk about it. Now, just beneath the dorsal muscle that I'm just quickly drawing here. Just beneath that muscle, there is another muscle that has this shape. I can't remember the name. I'm so bad trying to remember the name of the muscles. I'm sorry. But that has this kind of shape. And it is sort of like divided in 4 or 5 muscles that come this way, and they get intertwined with the ribcage. Kinda like this. And then, so when you're drawing them, if you really want to, like, you have to do this. You always see this in comic books, like they do this kind of thing here. And then they keep following the ribs, like individually. And from this side, it just gets a little more confusing. And I've been practicing this for a while now, but body types are so different that when I tried to do like just one, I was like, oh, this is going to look good. I used reference and I couldn't find just one that felt like it was universal. So this is very, very changing. And let me see what else. Well, in this particular case, it would be something like around here. You see, this is a very, very simplified way of doing this. But just remember, like, this line that follows from this. You have this. And, well, let me see how it looks. It looks like it could use some work. I know that I still have like some things to learn about this. There are like this particular space, for example, all of this. I know that there is actually some muscles that come this way, but those are not muscles that you actually see in reality. Like, you don't see this. This is very complicated to see. It's there, sure, but do you actually see it? Like, there's more chance that you're going to see like this bulk of the ribcage bouncing from this. Actually, they can go just a bit more up. But that's pretty much it. I don't think that you see this a lot, unless you're like a bodybuilder or something. Yeah, so I'm not so sure about that bean thing. I mean, what is the size of that bean? Like, or the parts of the bean? I don't know. I think I'm just more comfortable just doing the two cube-like shapes and go from there. Like, yeah, I mean, there's something I still haven't figured out about the bean, but I have to keep going. But now that I, kind of figure out where all the muscles go, I started wondering what is the difference between the male torso and the female torso. So after just doing a little bit of experimentation, I have my findings and these are them. Okay, now look at the screen. What I have here on the screen right now is, well, a male torso that I kind of did like really quickly because, oh, well, I have to tell you this. I'm very, very sick, but I'm still doing this because I love you guys. So I have this male torso here. And, well, the main difference between the male torso and the female torso is the width of the hips. Now, you have this male torso here. I'm going to work on it just a bit more. And, well, let's say that you have here, the shoulders will be here. So the arms follow here, and at any moment the arms don't touch the hips because the width of the shoulder is a lot more wide than the hips. Now on the female body, this is not what happens. When you are drawing the female body, now I have this kind of like sort of bean shaped thing that I was doing before. So if you're going to do the female body, what you have to do is, instead of doing this box like I have right here, what you have to do is something wider. It had to be like this shape. And of course, because the width of the hips, the woman's hips are wider because, well, a baby has to go through it. And since they are wider, they give the body this hourglass shape that men don't have because their hips are like straight. In the case of women, it is not like that. So this is why when you're drawing girls, they have this shape, right? So you have like the pecs here. Yes, they have the breasts. The breasts are going to be in the next video, not on this one, so I'm going to do them like real quickly. And the rest of the muscles are pretty much the same. So the legs come here. And what I was talking to you about shoulder width is because, well, depending on who you ask, they will tell you that the width of the hips is just as wide as the torso with the shoulders, because also, the girls seem to have like a little bit of a narrower ribcage. So if you do something that is like, it should be around, I don't know, here, if we do it like just a little bit skinnier, it should be somewhere around here or so. That doesn't look good at all. Well, it's not my best day, I'm sorry. But you get my point, right? Well, the thing about the shoulders doesn't really matter. What matters is that the hips are wider. And when you have to do them, you have to do this shape here. Now, when you're drawing, another difference that is about girls' hips is what happens in this particular shape. Now, I'm closing these two shapes. That is something that it doesn't usually happen because depending on the angle that you're drawing girls, and I'm going to show you right now, you can get something like this. Now, look at this drawing that I did before, just so I can show you. Is that the leg comes this way and this shape appears. Now this is not something that in any position or anything men have, because this is so pronounced and the hip is so wide, you will have a depression here. So depending on how the lighting is and the pose that the character is making, that this woman is making, you will have this shape here. That is something like when you're watching a lot of, if you watch like modeling campaigns or, well, actually just natural nude poses, you will see that shape appear a lot. And this is because of how the hip is wider. There's also the oblique muscles that participate in that shape. So the oblique muscles would be somewhere around here. And they're not separated from the overall shape of the hip, but they just become part of it. So that is the main difference. There is another thing that I want to show you about the female hip, and that is about how it curves on the back part. Now this is a male back. You see that this looks, you know, he has a nice tush. And it all, you know, you have this curve here for the back, and then it all just comes down like this. Now if you're going to draw a woman, what you have to do, I'm going to try to do it fast and sloppy, you know, that's how I like it. But when you're drawing a woman, you don't actually do that. What you do is you bring this shape a little bit back. So you have here, you have the butt. If you want to see how to draw butts, there is a video on this channel. So you have, here's the breast, back, and you see that there is here where the ribcage ends and the hip begins, there is a break, and this break makes this two are the lines that define the curve of the hip from behind. Like in the man it's just like this, and maybe it's just, if it is a really wide back, it goes a bit up, but in the girls is a lot more pronounced. So those are the things that I believe that you have to take into consideration when you're drawing girls. So first would be that the hip is wider. The second would be like this shape that I showed you, that just involves the hip and the thigh and the oblique muscles here on the hip. And the third is this curve that girls have. So, well, that's pretty much it. Or am I missing something? Like one thing? Or two things? Am I missing the boobs? Did I didn't show you how to draw boobs? Here's how to do it. So follow me. Here where I have pretty quick are 3 female torsos. One is with the arms down, the other one is with the arms up, and the other one is with the arms forward. What I'm going to do right now is, well, first we have to clear something up. And this is the most important part about what to do when drawing boobs. And the most important part is that, well, beneath the breasts there is obviously the pectoral muscle. Now when you're drawing women and you have to draw the breasts, you don't always take this into consideration, but it is there. So what we have to do very quickly, okay, when I did Photoshop does that, very quickly draw the pectoral muscles like this. We're going to do some like pretty skinny, not like these big bulgy pectoral muscles that men have. So we know, do this. This is very sketchy, but you know, like this. And in this particular case, it is compressed because it is pulling. So this is what the pectoral muscles would be doing in these 3 poses. Now, if we are to draw the breasts, well, I'm going to use this pose that is like the regular pose to try to figure out the shape. Now, what I always take in consideration when drawing the breast, and what you always have to think about, is the fact that they hang. They are not static, they're not like a bulgy muscle. This is something that is soft and it hangs. It's not hard. So what I usually use to guide myself is that I draw these 2 lines from the collarbone. And what I use them for is because, well, if you think about how the skin hangs from this part of the body, and you think about the breasts, you see that it kind of starts hanging from here, like all the tension and pressure of the hanging breasts comes from this part. So on this particular side, you have to know that the breast has actually a part that comes from below the pectoral muscle and then goes up, and it would be something like this. It is like this volume here, and on this particular side it is much easier because you just have to draw like these teardrop shape breasts because it hangs this is because of the tension of the breast hanging. So you bring it here, and the nipples, they're not actually facing straight or forward, but they're actually at an angle. That's because your rib cage is curved, so it's not straight, it's not a plane, it's not over a plane. So here we will have like the nipples or something like that. So to recap really quick, this really simple part is like you have to consider first of all the pectoral muscle, then this that comes from below. I'm going to delete this part here. And then the tension point of the hanging that, in my opinion, and it may vary depending the girl, but it actually comes from the center near of the chest. And it hangs outward. So you have it like this. And now the reason why I made these two other poses that are like this, moving their like the arms and whatnot, is because depending on what the arms are doing, it depends on how the breast is going to hang. So if you're going to take into consideration that it is going to hang from this place, and suddenly the arms are up, and the pectoral muscle, that is what the breast is attached to, is also going up. I mean, if you consider this, and then you see this, you will see that the breast is going to do something like this. Like it's going to still hang. It's going to start hanging more from this part because it is higher. So on this angle is always just a bit easier. And you bring the nipples up a bit because everything that is hanging is going up when you raise it. So the breasts are never static. They don't have movement by themselves, but they are changed by everything that moves around them. So the pectorals and the arms and gravity itself, because since it is actually a hanging soft bag, so to speak, it is affected by gravity. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, the third example that I wanted to show you here is that if you're compressing the pectorals, this is going to affect the breasts as well, so it's going to bring them together here because you're compressing all of this. And I'm talking about, these three belong to the same torso. They have roughly the same size, but they don't look alike at all. And that is because, they're being the shape of the breast is being changed by the movement of the arms. Now, what I was talking about gravity, that I was telling you that it was important, is because, since it's a hanging bag, so to speak, it is modified by the position of the body and what the body is doing. And for example, here I have like this woman that is laying down, facing forward. So we will have, if this is the rib cage, the pectoral muscle would be something like this, and then the breast would be hanging like this, because you have to take into account this curve on the rib cage. So it's going to slide outward throughout the rib cage. I mean, this is just maybe just a bit too exaggerated. But the hanging breasts will still hang from this point here, and they will hang outward because they're going to be, try to get closer to the ground. That's what gravity does. And in this particular case, I don't know if I'm going to get it right because I don't have much practice in this particular position. But if we're going to do the pectoral muscle here, and then hanging from here, going to be something like this, I would guess. No, it had to come just a bit. I'm sorry, I'm going to delete this because I think I'm doing it wrong. Because of course, the thing about, well, you do the pectoral muscle, and then, like, if this is going to be the gravity falling point and the breast comes from this part, it's going to be something like this. Because it won't be going down like this, it will be just going with gravity. Now, of course, that depending on the size of the breast, if the reaction to gravity and motion is going to be more exaggerated or not. But this is the basics that you have to consider when drawing breasts, that it is like this. I don't want to say water balloon because it doesn't give you the feeling that is, well, it kind of is like a water balloon if you have to think about the physics of the thing. But if you're like drawing fake boobs, none of these happen. If someone has like silicone implants or something like that, none of this that I just showed you happened. So, well, it was a very quick video. It is a kinda obvious video, but some people have a lot of trouble with drawing breasts. So I wanted to show you some simple things that I've learned through the years about how to draw breasts. I still have a long way to go about getting them right, but well, it's just a matter of practice. Okay, I have to admit something. I was just feeling just a bit sick, and those breasts are not that best, but the theory is there. I think that in a few weeks I'm going to do just an extra lessons to go after like a few more things about the breast, because I was watching the video and I was like, that's not very good, but you know, not good was just my week. But now that I'm feeling better, I'm ready to get drawing again and start a new lesson, and that's what is going to happen on this channel tomorrow. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it a, I don't know, recommend it to your friends, leave a comment if you want any particular lessons. I hope that you like the new microphone. I think it sounds pretty awesome. My name is Javi and I can draw. This is it for today, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!